You fix vents, Logan. You don't build. You patch. You maintain. That's not a dream. That's surviving. She didn't yell it. That was the part that got to me. She said it like she was commenting on the weather. Like the truth was so obvious, it didn't even deserve heat. Sophie stood by the fridge, arms crossed, wine glass in hand, watching me like a worn-out list she was tired of reading. I was standing in the kitchen, holding Jack's lunchbox from school. I hadn't even had a chance to take off my boots yet. There was still dust from a crawlspace job on my sleeves. The microwave hummed. Somewhere upstairs, Emma was playing something on her tablet. But in the middle of it all, Sophie kept going. You just exist, she added. Do you even want more out of life? Or is this it for you? This house, these routines, this nothingness. I didn't answer right away. I never did. That's the problem with being calm. People think you agree just because you're not shouting. Instead, I placed the lunchbox on the counter, wiped my hands on a towel, and looked at her. I'm tired, Sophie. Let's not do this tonight. Her eyes narrowed. Of course you're tired. You're always tired. You work yourself to death doing. What, Logan? HVACs and odd jobs. You think that's noble? She took a sip of wine and laughed, just once. You know what? Don't answer. I'm going to Madison's. Girls' night. Maybe I'll sleep over. She didn't wait for permission. Just turned and walked to the hallway, grabbing her purse and jacket like it was already decided. You really don't have to go, I said, not loud, just enough. She paused at the door. No, I really do. And then she was gone. The house was so quiet it felt staged. Jack's homework sat untouched on the table. Emma was humming upstairs, unaware of the shift that had just happened below. I walked to the living room and sat on the edge of the couch, not really sitting. Just hovering in that space between collapse and silence. There was no point in calling her. No point in chasing or pleading. I didn't even feel angry. Just removed. Like I'd been slowly erased from my own life, and I was only now noticing the outline. After a while, I stood up, poured myself a small glass of whiskey, one of the bottles I only touched when something broke inside, and walked into the little office room I'd built in the corner of the house. My space. My rules. My quiet. I opened the laptop, logged into the poker site I hadn't touched in weeks, and set the filters. Local players. Video table. I liked seeing faces. It made the game feel real, like I could still read people, even if I couldn't talk to the one who mattered most. The table filled slowly. 6 players. A few had their cams off. 2 looked half asleep. 1 had a dog snoring in the background. Normal stuff. Harmless distractions. I played a few hands, won some, folded most. I wasn't chasing money. I was chasing something quieter, the stillness that comes when you're focused, even for a minute. One guy's face caught my attention. Clean-shaven, sharp smile, hair just messy enough to look styled. Confident. He played fast, bold, risky. Like someone who believed in his luck more than his skill. His name was Chip King. I'd seen him before. Maybe a week ago, or 2. His background looked familiar. Maybe I'd noticed the same lamp or chair. I wasn't sure. It didn't matter. Nothing stood out. Not yet. We played a few more hands. He cleaned the table once with a bluff, then typed in the chat. Luck's always on my side. No one replied. I didn't either. When the session ended, I closed the laptop, finished my drink, and sat in the dark for a while. Something about the way Sophie looked at me, like I was a placeholder, wouldn't leave my head. I didn't know it yet, but I had already seen the first clue. I just hadn't remembered where. The next morning, I made pancakes. Not the dry kind from a box, but real ones, whisked together from flour, eggs, and muscle memory. Jack sat at the counter, swinging his feet and stacking blueberries like building blocks. Emma tried braiding her own hair until she ended up with a knot the size of a walnut. It was chaotic, loud, imperfect, but it felt alive. I hadn't slept much. I kept waking up to phantom sounds, the front door creaking, soft steps on the stairs. But Sophie never came home, and I didn't call. Emma asked where Mom was, and I told her she was still at Madison's. Jack didn't ask anything. He was too focused on his blueberry towers. After breakfast, we went to the park. Emma brought her sketchbook and drew trees with faces. Jack kicked a soccer ball in whatever direction his feet pointed. At one point, it rolled down a small hill, and I had to jog after it. They both laughed so hard they fell into the grass. I laughed too. Genuinely. It was one of those moments where nothing felt broken. Not yet. On the way home, we picked up groceries. For dinner, we made spaghetti together. Jack folded napkins into triangles, and Emma lit one of the fancy candles Sophie usually reserved for dinner guests. I let her. It felt earned. Sophie walked in around 8. She didn't pause at the door, didn't smile at the smell of garlic and tomatoes. Her eyes moved around the kitchen like a scanner, dishes, counters, table, us, until they landed on me. I told you not to wait up, she said flatly. We weren't, I replied. We just made dinner. Jack looked up, proud. We made the sauce from scratch. She didn't smile, just nodded, took off her jacket, and walked straight past us. No greeting. No thank you. Just air. At dinner, it didn't take long. Jack, in his excitement, forgot to move his plate when he got up for seconds. Sophie saw it and snapped, sharp, cold. Is it so hard to clean up after yourself? Jack froze, plate in hand. Emma dropped her fork. I looked up. He's just getting more pasta, I said calmly. He's 6. 6 and already learning to act like. She stopped. Took a breath. Never mind. We ate the rest of the meal in near silence. Jack lost his appetite. Emma picked at her bread. The candle burned lower without a flicker of joy in it. That night, after the kids were in bed, I stood between their rooms for a while, listening. Emma's soft breaths. Jack talking to himself in whispers about superheroes. I memorized the sound of peace. Back in the living room, I sat on the couch and opened my phone. News, headlines, trash. I wasn't looking for anything. Then I saw her story. A photo. Dim, quiet. 2 wine glasses on a small round table. Her hand holding one. A sliver of a sleeve I recognized. No people. No location tag. But behind the glass. Curtains. Heavy beige fabric with a soft, almost leafy pattern. Drawn halfway, glowing from warm light behind them. Something in me paused. I zoomed in. Adjusted the brightness. Looked again. They were familiar. But not from our home. We didn't have curtains like that. Just simple white blinds. Still, something about them scratched at the back of my mind. I'd seen them somewhere. Not recently, maybe not even clearly. But they lived in a memory I hadn't opened yet. It wasn't a big moment. Not a lightning bolt. Just a nudge, a quiet knock on a door I didn't know was closed. I put the phone down and sat for a while, staring at the wall. Tomorrow, I told myself. Maybe tomorrow I'll remember. The day passed in fragments. We said little. Sophie moved through the house like a shadow in someone else's life. Jack asked if we could go to the movies, and I told him maybe this weekend. Emma spent most of the afternoon drawing, her legs curled up on the couch, glancing at me now and then like she wanted to say something but changed her mind each time. Sophie and I crossed paths a few times, in the hallway, in the kitchen, but never looked long at each other. She didn't ask about my day. I didn't ask where she'd been. By dinner, the house felt staged again. Not a home, just a well-decorated silence. That night, after the kids fell asleep and Sophie went upstairs early, claiming a headache but taking her phone and makeup bag with her, I poured a quiet drink and reopened the poker site. I wasn't hunting. I wasn't even curious. I just needed something else to hear, something else to watch. The kind of stillness that cards offer when nothing else makes sense. No judgment. No noise. Just faces, reads, and rhythm. I joined a local video table. A familiar setup, 6 players. And then I saw him. Chip King. Same username. Same smug smile. But this time, his camera angle was different. Wider. Almost careless. And that's when I saw it. The curtains. No guessing now. No flicker of doubt. I knew them. From her story. From that glass of wine. The image that had been scratching at my brain for days finally snapped into focus. My stomach tightened. In the corner of his frame, a wine bottle. The same brand Sophie always brought home after girls' night. Beside it, a second glass, mostly empty. Not facing the camera. Like someone had just stepped away. He leaned back in his chair, looking far too comfortable. Rough crowd tonight. He muttered into his mic after a hand. You'd think people would fold when they're beat. No one responded. The next hand, he bluffed hard and cleaned the table. Then laughed. That slick, confident kind of laugh that only works when you believe no one can touch you. Man, he said, sipping from the glass. I'm lucky in cards and luckier in life. Especially with the kind of women who know what they want and know what they're stuck with. Another player chuckled. He kept going, like silence was a spotlight, and he couldn't stand not being center stage. Some husbands are just wallpaper, you know? Quiet, bland, clueless. Makes the rest of us look like kings. Something inside me didn't snap. It aligned. I didn't blink. Didn't type. I hovered the cursor over the record button and clicked. He kept talking. Too much wine, too much ego. No names, no exact details. But it didn't matter. The room said enough. The tone did the rest. And then I saw it, hanging over the back of the chair behind him. Sophie's cardigan. Light gray. Soft fabric. The one she said she'd spilled coffee on and left at Madison's. There it was, draped casually like it belonged there. Because it did. I took screenshots. Not just of him, but of the room, the glass, the wine bottle, the curtains. Every element. I noted the timestamp, the usernames, the platform. I played a few more hands. 1-1, folded most. The game wasn't about chips. It never was. When I logged off, the silence wasn't comforting anymore. It was focused. I opened a folder on my desktop, created a new one, named it Session Evidence. And in that moment, I stopped being unsure. I didn't confront her. I didn't slam doors or ask questions. I didn't bring up the cardigan, the wine glasses, the curtains, or the laugh I'd recorded, the one he gave after bragging about married women. I said nothing. I shaved. I made coffee. I packed Emma's lunch. I drove Jack to school. I lived like a man with no clue, because I wanted her to believe I was exactly that. While Sophie was at yoga that afternoon, I made a call. A name I hadn't said out loud in years, but one I never forgot. Ray Collins. We weren't close, but I trusted him. He used to be a detective, not the kind who carried a badge just for show. Ray worked in organized crime for over a decade before finally burning out and stepping away. He didn't leave because he was soft. He left because he got tired of what the job turned people into. Now he worked quietly. Consulting, private research, background checks for companies that didn't want official footprints. He never advertised, but people who needed him knew how to find him. I remembered something he once told me at a friend's barbecue, long before my life started slipping. People hide what they fear. That's what gives them away. The ones who look safe are usually the ones carrying the secrets. I called. He answered on the second ring. You sound like a man who's had enough, he said before I even said my name. Yeah, can we talk? That evening, we met in his truck behind an old gas station off Route 9. Ray hadn't changed. Still wore the same black ball cap, still drank black coffee at all hours. I slid a flash drive across the seat. The guy's username is Chip King. He's playing poker on a local platform. I think he's sleeping with my wife. I just need the truth. Quietly, Ray nodded. No revenge stuff. No, I'm not trying to get arrested. I just want to know who I'm dealing with. He didn't ask anything else. Just took the drive and a notepad, scribbled a few notes, and said, "Give me 3 days. Maybe less." Sophie was warm that week. Unnaturally warm. She texted during the day, little things. Want Thai tonight? Or should I pick up more coffee? She started wearing perfume again, the one she used to save for holidays. She even sat with me to watch an old movie one evening, and halfway through it, I realized she was watching me, not the film. I gave her nothing in return but casual smiles and nods. If she was testing to see if the blindfold was still on, I wasn't about to flinch. On the third day, Ray called. "I've got him," he said. "You ready?" We met in the same spot. Ray handed me a folder and a flash drive. This guy's a walking ego. Everything's traceable. The file read like a resume of arrogance. Derek Mason, 38. Single. Lives alone. Works regional sales for a smart home company. Mid-level income. Expensive taste. Online aliases. Chip King, DM8, and one burner linked to a private Discord server titled Kingsonly, where he posted under a thread labeled, "Wives I've Broken." Ray had matched timestamps on the poker games to Sophie's Instagram activity. He'd pulled metadata from her wine photo, confirming it was taken in Derek's apartment. Same curtains, same lighting angle, same timestamp as a game I'd played against him. In one archived chat post, Derek had written, "She's married. Kids. I've played poker in the same hour she was with me. Husband's a ghost. Never sees it." Ray didn't read it out loud. He just slid the page toward me. "Let me take it in." "Sloppy," he muttered. "But he thinks that makes him powerful." I closed the folder slowly. "Anything else?" I pulled his employment data, corporate emails, social media. The guy likes attention. It'll bury him. I nodded. This is more than I expected. Ray tapped the dash. "You gonna blow it up?" "No," I said. "I'm gonna make it quiet." At home, Sophie was setting the table. Roasted vegetables, grilled chicken. A candle lit. Jack bouncing in his chair. Emma setting out forks. It could have been a photo for a family magazine if you didn't know what sat in the bag slung over my shoulder. She smiled at me. Warm. Almost convincing. You're home early, she said. Hope you're hungry. I am, I said. Long day. We ate like a family that hadn't already cracked. Sophie asked about school. The kids told her stories. I laughed in the right places. But I saw it now, the performance. Every movement she made felt like a woman trying to protect something. Her eyes flickered when I met them too long. Her voice rose half a pitch when I asked where she'd been. She hadn't told a single new lie, but I could feel them breathing under the surface. That night, I stayed up late, in my little office with the door shut. I opened Ray's files. Studied them again. The Discord posts. The photos. The poker usernames. The metadata. All of it. Then I opened a blank page. The site. It would be simple. One page. No names in the domain. No need for shouting. Just a mirror. One they couldn't shatter. The site was simple. White background. Clean fonts. No flash. No names in the domain. Just a string of letters and numbers that meant nothing unless you clicked. And if you did, the first thing you saw was a timeline. Each entry opened like a drawer. Poker session, August 3rd, Chip King's camera feed. Sophie's Instagram story, same day, same time. Curtains. Wine. Cardigan. A perfect match. Then audio. A man laughing through a headset. Some husbands are just wallpaper. They don't even notice when the walls change. Below that, screenshots. Metadata. A comparison photo, Sophie's story and Derek's apartment, side by side. You couldn't argue with it. Not unless you were blind. I wasn't making accusations. I wasn't even telling a story. I was just arranging facts so they could tell it for me. Over the next 2 days, I added more. A short clip from the poker game where Derek raised on a bluff and bragged. She's with me right now. And he thinks she's at book club. The recording was grainy, but his voice was clear. Too proud. Too drunk to care. A screenshot from a private Discord post Ray had pulled, Derek boasting. She leaves her ring on his nightstand and laughs about it after. I never saw her take off her ring at home. But now I knew where it had been. I didn't rage. I didn't cry. I just kept building. The last section was the cleanest, faces. One still image of Derek from his poker cam. Confident. Unaware. One image of Sophie, a moment from her Instagram story, smiling into a glass of wine, unaware of the curtain behind her. Truth doesn't need context. It just needs light. The night I finished the site, Sophie was in the living room, watching something on her phone with headphones in. I stood in the hallway, watching her for a moment. She looked so normal. So calm. She scrolled. Sipped tea. Crossed her legs and sighed. Then I turned back to the office, copied the site link, and scheduled 2 emails. The first to Sophie's office chat group. The one titled Support Sisters. The second to Derek's corporate inbox, flagged as HR concern, personal conduct. Both were set to go out the next morning. At 8 a.m. That night, in bed, Sophie turned to me in the dark. You've been quiet lately, she said. I've been thinking. About what? I paused, then smiled. Everything. She didn't press. She turned back over. And I stared at the ceiling for a long time. At 8:13 the next morning, she got the first call. Then another. Then a message pinged. Another. A dozen. I watched her walk into the kitchen with her phone buzzing like a trapped bee. She scrolled fast, then slower. Her brow furrowed, but her face hadn't fully processed it yet. Something's going around, she muttered. Weird messages. I looked up from the cereal. Probably a scam. She blinked. People I know are sending it. Emma walked in with her backpack. I handed her a granola bar. Bus is coming. Grab your coat. Sophie stared at her phone for another second, then slipped it into her purse and grabbed her keys. I'll call you if it's anything. Of course, I said, sipping coffee. Then she left. Quiet. Fast. Like she was already late for something she didn't see coming. I packed the kids' lunches like I did every Thursday. Folded their bags. Wrote Jack's name on his field trip envelope. The sun poured through the blinds. And somewhere between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, the truth began doing what it always does. It spread. It started with whispers. By mid-morning, Sophie's name was already spreading through private messages at her office. No one asked anything directly, not yet. But the glances started. The hesitations. The unread messages left unseen. The shift in tone. By lunch, 2 of her coworkers had left the group chat. Another changed her status to offline. Sophie, meanwhile, was staring at her phone like it was a bomb that had already exploded, and she hadn't felt the blast yet. She didn't eat. She didn't even sit. Just walked from room to room, sometimes pausing to open her mouth, then closing it again before any words came out. That afternoon, I took the kids out for ice cream. No reason, just because I wanted the house empty. When we got back, she was sitting on the couch, eyes blank, face pale. I asked nothing. I gave her the same silence she once gave me, the kind that turns a man into wallpaper. She spoke first. Derek said he's being investigated. HR got an anonymous email. They're reviewing his online activity. He's suspended until further notice. I nodded slowly. That's tough. She looked at me like she was trying to see through me. Did you do this? I sipped my water. Did what? This isn't just revenge. You built something. You planned this. I met her eyes. I watched. That's all. I listened. And I let the truth speak in full sentences. She looked like she wanted to scream, but the words wouldn't come. And for once, I didn't need to say more. That night, I got a message from an unknown number. Just one sentence. You smug little man. You think you won. It was Derek. I didn't respond. Minutes later, he messaged again. A screenshot. My photo from LinkedIn, posted on some anonymous forum with the title, "This is the guy who couldn't keep his wife loyal." A weak attempt. I smiled. Calmly opened the old video file of our poker session, the one where Derek bragged about betting a married woman and mocked her clueless husband. Then, I took a screenshot of his smug face and sent it back to him. Just one line with it. You really should have closed your camera, King. He blocked me. The next day, Sophie's sister called her, not to console, but to scream. I only heard bits of it, but I knew enough. Her family had seen the site, the timeline, the posts, the lies. And Sophie? She couldn't deny a single frame. She tried deleting her socials, but nothing vanishes. Her coworkers had saved the site. Her own words, her photos, her wine, her stories. Every spa day was now a stain. By the end of the week, her inbox was a ghost town. No replies, no meetings, just silence. She tried one last thing. One night, after dinner, she sat down across from me. Calm, calculated, like the old Sophie before the coldness. You're still their father, she said. You still have to be a man they respect. I am. Her voice trembled for the first time in weeks. You humiliated me. No, I said quietly. I exposed you. There's a difference. She stared at me. People are calling me names. I didn't tell them what to call you. I stood up, took my plate to the sink, washed it slowly. Behind me, she whispered, I hate you. I dried my hands, looked over my shoulder. You lied in front of your children. You laughed at me behind my back. You slept in another man's bed while calling me a failure. Hate is the only honest thing you've said in months. She didn't speak again. The next morning, she left. No suitcases, just a bag slung over her shoulder. No goodbye to the kids. No note. Just a woman walking out like she was hoping to vanish before someone else captured her frame. She didn't know I had already deleted the site. It had served its purpose. I never needed the world to punish her. I just needed her to see herself fully, clearly, publicly. And that moment had passed. She would live inside it forever now. That night, Emma curled up beside me on the couch. Is Mommy gone? She asked. I nodded. She didn't cry. She just leaned into my side and whispered, You don't yell like her. No, I said. I don't need to. She fell asleep on my chest. And I stared at the blank television screen in front of us, not watching anything. Because finally, everything worth seeing had already been seen.